fractions with unlike denominators in the borrowing method. Okay, so we have 8 1/3 minus 2 1/2. Just like we've been doing all this week, we are going to set our problems up vertically. We are going to get common denominators. Common denominator of 2 and 3 is 6. What times 3 gives me 6? 2. So I multiply the numerator by 2 and I get a 2. What times 2 gives me 6? 3. What I multiply the denominator by, I multiply the numerator by. But as you can see, you cannot take 2 minus 3. So we have to do this new method of borrowing. I'm going to explain to you the mathematical reasoning behind borrowing, and then I'm going to show you a shortcut to borrowing. So the first thing you do is you bring along the second bottom fraction, because that doesn't change. You get 2 and 3/6. You borrow from the 8 and it becomes a 7, just like you would borrow in double-digit subtraction. But now we're dealing with a fraction. So instead of borrowing the whole number 1, we have to borrow a fraction that represents the whole number 1. And for our particular example in number 1, we're going to borrow 6, 6. Okay, we're going to borrow 6, 6. The reason why I picked 6, 6 is because that is the denominator for problem number 1. We don't want to go out and get a different denominator like 9/9, because then we'd have to get common denominators again. So if I already had 2 6 and I now just borrowed to get 6 6, I now have a grand total of 8 6. And now you can see you can perform your subtraction. So we say 7 minus 2 is 5. 8 6 minus 3 6 is 5 6. Now what's that shortcut that I was talking about? Well, let me just erase some of these colors here so we don't get confused. Okay, we still borrow from the 8 to make it become a 7, but the little trick is you just add your numerator and denominator together to give you this new numerator. You take the numerator of 2 and the denominator of 6, add it together, and that gives you your new numerator of 8. Let's do another one. Okay, so we have 10 and 2/35 minus 6 and 6/7. Got to get our common denominator of 35 and 7, which happens to be 35. And then we say, what times 35 gives me 35? 1. So 2 times 1 is 2. Oops, wrong color. Sorry about that. Okay. Second fraction, what times 7 gives me 35? 5. So I now need to take that numerator, 6 times 5 to give me a 30. And again, as you can see, you cannot take 2/35 minus 30/35. So you have to borrow. Second fraction stays as is. We borrow from the 10 to make it a 9. We're going to use our trick. We're going to add our numerator of 2 and our denominator of 35 to give us a new numerator of 37. Now we can subtract. 9 minus 6 is 3. 37/35 minus 30/35 is 7/35. But hopefully there's a red light going off in your head going, whoa, whoa, 7/35 is not in simplest form, and therefore I get 3 1/5. Last example. We have 11 minus 3 and 24/35. I hope you're asking yourself this question. How many 35ths are in this blank space? How many 35ths are in this blank space? I hope you say nothing. I hope you say none. And then you ask yourself, how do you represent none in math? You represent it as 0 35ths. None. None are there. 0. Now you can't take 0 35ths minus 24 35ths, so it's time to borrow. You write that second fraction as is. You borrow from the 11 to be a 10. You use our trick. 0 plus 35 gives us 35 35ths. Okay, that whole number 11 had 0 35ths. So I just wrote that there to remind myself. And then I added my numerator of 0 and my denominator of 35. Now it's time to subtract. 10 minus 3 is 7. 35 35ths minus 24 35ths is 11 35ths. And my final answer is 7 and 11 35ths. Please check the Google Calendar for your homework and reminder to do your exit ticket. Have a great evening, have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.